So I've been talking about this Economic Bill of Rights for several years, and I did this video with the Gravel people. And Alan Minsky, who's the head of Progressive Democrats of America, whom I've become friendly with, said, maybe we should put together a 21st century Economic Bill of Rights and launch it. And in fact, he had the idea of taking it right to the Progressive Democrats with the idea that any candidate they would endorse should at least embrace what we've laid out. So I'm hogging the mic here. Can I just read this quickly, or do you want to put one up, or what do you want to do? Go with it? Okay, so This is a 21st century Economic Bill of Rights. 1, the right to a job that pays a living wage, which was, by the way, part of FDR's. 2, the right to a voice in the workplace through a union and collective bargaining, which was not actually in FDR's because he thought he had already solved that problem with the National Labor Relations Act and it didn't foresee what would transpire with the Taft-Hartley Act the Republicans pushed through in 47. He died in 45. 3rd, the right to comprehensive quality health care, which Roosevelt himself wanted in the Social Security Act of 1935, but could not get it included, but then did include it in the Economic Bill of Rights he called for. 4, the right to a complete cost-free public education and broadband internet. 5, the right to decent, safe, affordable housing. 6, the right to a clean environment and a secure planet. 7, the right to a meaningful endowment of resources at birth and a secure retirement. And by the way, that one, number 7, actually comes basically is associated with Thomas Paine in the 1790s when he wrote Agrarian Justice, which was really the first ever call for a Social Security plan. And when he called for it, for people he said people beyond a certain age should not have to work. He also said we should prevent poverty by giving young people grants of money to do what they feel like what they could pursue in order not to fall into poverty, whether it was, education, a small business, buy land, whatever. Number 8, the right to sound banking and financial services. 9, the right to an equitable and economically fair justice system. Did I skip 6, the right to a clean environment and secure planet? I did say it. Okay. And finally, number 10, the right to recreation and participation in public life, which, by the way, was very much a part of FDR's. In fact, the commission that was working through the 30s into the 40s, well, especially in the 30s, that helped FDR develop those ideas, which was a really, really important commission that no one has heard of called the National Resources Planning Board. They actually called for the right to recreation and adventure. Okay, and adventure. Yeah. In fact, I do recall that, not to go back to the subject of grass, but I do recall the last time that I was on talking about this, we talked about recreation, and you folks immediately went to recreational marijuana, but we don't want to go back there.
I just love that you call it grass. So, Steve,
that's a sign of my age, isn't it?
That's why I love it. It's just so telling. Steve, what are your thoughts on the 21st century Bill of Rights?
I absolutely love it. And I don't know if you've ever spoken to him or not, Harvey, but there's a gentleman named Derek Hamilton.
Yeah, and Derek Hamilton, yes. And I'll just say that Derek Hamilton has favored for a long time the reparations question, okay? But when he got together with a friend of mine, Mark Paul, a young economist who was teaching until recently at New College in Sarasota, will be at Rutgers next year, they got together, there were 3 of them, and they proposed a 21st century Economic Bill of Rights, which we drew upon. And I will tell you that the question for him for the 21st century Economic Bill of Rights had to do with this material endowment question, which is why I reached back to Thomas Paine. Should anyone ask, well, aren't you then proposing reparations? No, I'm proposing the 18th century call for a material endowment for all kids, which, by the way, will reduce every one of these things will have a greater impact on reducing the wealth structure than would specifically a probably unwieldy and maybe politically troubling reparations program.
He has, it's called baby bonds.
Yes,
he has
that's
put
it.
out there.
Right, baby bonds. Right,
The baby
That's right.
bonds were. So I was thinking. I mean, you got to find your allies here as you try to advance.
Yeah, no.
This stuff.
In fact, yes. I personally have not been in touch with him, though we follow each other on Twitter, as I recall.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love this. I mean, I absolutely, it gives you a very concrete view of value, what you value,
Okay.
what
Well, then
we
let me
value
also,
as a society.
You'll enjoy knowing in Wisconsin, where Scott Walker literally transformed the political landscape, we are still suffering badly under Republican legislature, and we fear the possibility of a return of a Republican to the governorship. But a couple of Democratic young women, young to me at least, freshman assemblywomen introduced, it couldn't even get onto the floor really because of the Republicans, the idea of a Wisconsin Economic Justice Bill of Rights, which is essentially similar to what I just laid out. And one happens to be a good friend of mine and assemblywoman from my district. Similarly, as I just said, the Democrats in Massachusetts have embraced it. And apparently it was a 97% vote in favor, for what it's worth. Similarly, I've been in touch with a woman in the assembly in New Hampshire who is eager to try to create an economic justice caucus to take this up. So I really do think that if we can get through these, if we could survive November 2022, then we could get some a major national conversation going on this. But I can also tell you that I have little confidence. I mean this sincerely. I have very little confidence in the Progressive Caucus right now, the way it's.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.